Hello, this is Derek Dopide here from Wet Fox Productions, and I'm here to talk about childhood well-being in Oklahoma. As of 2019, Oklahoma ranked 45th in the United States in childhood education and 43rd in childhood health. This is according to the 2019 Kids Count data book. I want to talk about some ways that we could possibly improve these numbers as a state. Overall, Oklahoma is currently placed 42nd in overall childhood well-being. And over the last few decades, it's become infamous for the poor quality. Well, as a state, Oklahoma has become infamous for the poor quality of childhood well-being. So let's get into some ways that we can discuss how to fix this and give our children overall a better chance of life. There are many catalysts for these consistent poor performances throughout the few decades, including budget cuts to education. I think actually being one of the greater catalysts. Governor Stint, even in recent years, has made tremendous budget cuts, well, over the last year anyway, to overall education in Oklahoma. Also, there's a obscenely high number of Oklahomans that live below the poverty line. The teen birth rate in Oklahoma is the second highest in the nation, out of 33.4 births. Out of 1,000 females, these occur between the ages of 15 and 19. We're second only to Arkansas in that regard. That's according to the Oklahoma Department of Health. Also, around 50% of all births are unplanned, and of all these numbers, about 8% of Oklahoma children are currently uninsured, well, as of 2019. I'll provide these statistics in the description below, so please check them out. How can we fix this? Well, on a federal level, Medicaid for all is the obvious answer. Of course, that's not happening anytime soon, but statistics have shown that in a household where the parents are insured and healthy and have job security, then their children do better as well. Not only do they have a better chance in life, but they have access to health care. They have access to a stable family, less domestic violence occurs. Having healthy Oklahomans, having Oklahomans that are insured and that have job stability is really the first step that needs to be taken. It's a key point to better ensure that our children have a stable environment and a future. An affordable solution, one that's not federal but can come at a state level, would be to have that to make it so that Oklahomans are insured. So to move our funds around, instead of defunding education, we could move some of our budget around so that we can make sure that Oklahomans are insured, so that we can make sure that there's a livable wage, so that Oklahomans can afford health insurance. Raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour federally, of course, would be great, but just from a state perspective, if Oklahoma raises the minimum wage from $7.15 up into even somewhere around $10 an hour, because Oklahoma as a whole is very economically poor, but housing is also very cheap in Oklahoma. So if we have an affordable wage in Oklahoma that allows its residents to live comfortably, then their children will also live comfortably in relation to that. So not only that, but Oklahomans will be able to afford insurance for themselves and their children. Again, this goes back to less domestic violence, happier family, and children that have a better chance in life. As I mentioned, statistics have shown that the happier the family, then the more healthy the children would be. Within Oklahoma, about 15% of its residents suffer from some type of chronic or mental illness. Now, this was as of 2016, so the numbers have actually gone up as of last year, up to around the 22% margin, where Oklahomans are diagnosed with some sort of mental or chronic illness. Not being able to afford medication to help their to help with things like depression, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, which not only ravages Oklahoma but the entire nation as a whole. Being able to afford treatment for these debilitating illnesses will lead to a happier home life as well. Another Another step would be to include to improve rather the poverty rate in Oklahoma, especially those of color. There is, as of the entire population of Oklahoma, those of color still, the majority of them still live in the projects or low income housing. In not so desirable neighborhoods. Their families usually work 2 to 3 jobs just to take care of their children and provide for their children. But with low income neighborhoods comes a poor educational system. So by raising the minimum wage, raising the making life affordable, getting these people out of the projects and out of low-income neighborhoods will also move their kids into a better education system, into a better school system, so that they don't get caught up in things like gang violence or drugs. Um, Also gives them a better chance of going to school, going to university, post education out of high school, also improves the odds of them graduating high school to begin with, so that they don't get caught up in this pattern, the same cycle that has ravaged their families for generations. And it is a cycle. It's systematic. Capitalism is designed to be this way, to keep the low, essentially. And Oklahoma is no different than the rest of the nation in that aspect. I mean, you look at other countries like Finland or Norway, Sweden, where the government provides healthcare and makes poverty a priority, keeping people out of poverty. So if you look at Sweden, less than 5% of that entire nation is impoverished right now, and they have one of the highest educational rankings of the entire world. So, I mean, I'm not talking about just Oklahoma as a country, being, ranked 40, third. I'm talking about the world. They have um, one of the greatest economic placements in the world, and their children benefit from this. So things like food banks are great. I think that every county needs to have a food bank, and most counties do have a food bank. But I think that we need to sink more money into food banks, just so that families can provide until we fix this issue. But overall, I think that the greatest thing that we can improve is getting Oklahomans out of poverty. Making sure that Oklahomans are insured, making sure that Oklahomans can afford to take care of themselves and their families. Once we do that, we'll see the overall childhood well-being in the state rise. We'll see more kids graduate. We'll see lower teen pregnancies, lower unplanned pregnancies. Kids will be educated on how to avoid unplanned pregnancies, and also be educated on how to improve their own lives, be able to go on to secondary school and to make a better life for themselves. Again, I'll provide these statistics in the description below. My name is Derek, and thank you for watching.